Welcome to the third phase, the Align phase of Rethink Health's Pathway for Transforming Regional Health. I'm Ruth Wagaman, one of Rethink Health's directors of our stewardship work, and I want to share with you in this presentation what we have learned about the typical challenges that leaders face in stewarding their regional efforts into and through the Align phase of regional health transformation. If you'd like to explore an overview of the pathway, you can find that presentation in the stewardship guides on Rethink Health's website. So let's explore how groups move from the engage phase into the align phase. The main pitfall of the engage phase was focusing on early wins with narrow impact. But many efforts make it beyond the engage phase into phase 3, the align phase, by building a real leadership team and setting themselves up to build capacity to do more and more together. In this presentation, we'll look at the key pitfalls and the key momentum builders for phase 3, the align phase. The third phase of a regional change effort is the phase we call align. The primary work of this phase is captured in its name. A region is in phase 3 when there are many initiatives underway that align people and resources from several different organizations and sectors. When the ongoing work of the collaboration is a normal way that groups and organizations solve problems together in the health system. The major work of the align phase is to bring all those many efforts into a coherent bundle that's focused on moving toward a big vision for the future. In the early stages of phase 3, many regional change efforts are a loose collection of projects. Some are aimed at improving the conditions in neighborhoods to shape a healthier future. Some perhaps are aimed at changing how and when care is provided. Some are aimed at engaging citizens in healthier behavior, and each of these individual initiatives may be producing important results for residents. But their impact and their reach is often small or narrow because they don't combine or add up to a powerful united force toward a common set of aims. The work of phase 3 is to bring about that alignment so that in the later years of phase 3, what we see are a handful of priorities that guide all these efforts. The people who are leading the effort hold a long-term perspective, and there's a broad swath of engaged citizens who are part of the vision and innovations that are going on. We also see in the late stages of the align phase a focus on continuous learning from experiments that enable the effort to develop greater and greater dexterity, both in identifying high-leverage innovations that really work and in sustaining a great collaboration across organizations. Let's look at one highly successful phase 3 region. In this region, a powerfully organizing force was born when the main hospitals in the region, convened by champions from philanthropy and the university, chose to conduct a health needs assessment together for about 2 million citizens in 2 counties. They decided that they wanted not just to identify the needs together, but really to develop a shared strategy for combining their power and resources to solve these problems together. This collaborative became a large, diverse steering group of leaders who shared a passionate vision of a healthier and more sustainable future for a major metropolitan area. They've built a shared commitment across institutions to align local investments in health and care. This collaborative has led the establishment of shared priorities and a signed covenant among more than 40 participating organizations, and they're enabling the funding and implementation of initiatives that are consistent with those priorities. There are many more health improvement and care improvement initiatives already underway in this region than we can name here, but what makes them such a clear and compelling phase 3 example is that leaders in this region work together to bring all these disparate efforts into alignment by creating the infrastructure, by identifying strongly shared priorities to guide the future, and to increase their power to make things radically better in the future. Just as with all the phases of the pathway, leaders of regional health transformation efforts encounter some typical pitfalls in the align phase that are often a direct consequence of their success in earlier phases. Let's take a look at some of the more common pitfalls of the align phase. We have seen that change efforts in phase 3 can stall or lose focus and energy because all of the projects that will produce the easy wins, improvements for particularly vulnerable residents, for example, the straightforward ways of reducing waste or harm or improving quality, they've already been tried and they've already produced results. And now it's time to do the much harder things that take many years and take more effort to produce results. And it's time to address the kind of improvements in the health system that require some stakeholders to talk about harder topics, such as, can we really keep living in a fee-for-service world, or should we be pursuing reforms in how providers are paid? Or can we really improve the health of our residents without acknowledging the devastating effects of poverty on health? The energy, the excitement, the sense of progress that sustains efforts in phases 1 and 2 can screech to a halt in phase 3 if the basis for trusting each other and working together toward a strongly shared set of values has not been well established. A second common pitfall of phase 3 that comes directly from success in earlier phases is that the sheer number and scope of projects that are in play and the complexity of relationships between organizations and the many ways that they're working together can get way out ahead of the infrastructure to support all that collaboration. We've seen that collaborations across many different organizations require significant scaffolding to keep it all going. It requires shared information, which may not be possible with current information systems that are in place. It requires people who can manage these complex operations, and more importantly, help support a stewardship group in aligning everyone around a larger goal. It requires funding, real, tangible commitments from the stakeholders that are involved. Our research about collaboratives that are working toward health system transformation shows that two very negative consequences can arise from this pitfall. One is that many such collaboratives wind up narrowing their scope, restricting their vision, and falling back to lower aspirations, bringing what they're pursuing back in line with what the structure can handle. That kind of reduction in scope and purpose can be very deflating for the people involved, and it can start a downward spiral of investment of resources and energy. Secondly, phase 3 efforts are at a real risk at this point of killing off certain programs, like investments in the upstream drivers of better health, that really don't pay off until the long run, but they're too expensive to maintain in the short run, thereby missing out on the long-term benefits of having a healthier population. But it doesn't have to be that way. Many align phase efforts navigate these serious risks by focusing on a small handful of momentum builders that keep initiatives motivated and keep up the capacity needed to get real work done in the align phase. One critical aspect of sustaining momentum in phase 3 is to revisit the question of whose vision is this? When progress gets harder, when difficult questions have to be addressed, trusting relationships among key leaders are especially critical. But at the same time, the focus of that small cadre of leaders has to be on stewardship. Stewardship for the whole region with accountability to the larger population of residents. We've seen that a stewardship refresh, actively recruiting to a phase 3 effort, new champions who share the values, can have a powerful effect on sustaining momentum. At the same time that the key stewards of an effort replenish their membership, they should focus on building a bridge to a broader group of active, engaged residents who can and should be part of defining a sustaining vision for the long run. Focus energy in phase 3 on getting serious buy-in of many well-positioned residents and stakeholders to a big vision that will guide and orient the effort. Let's look at some ways that both the stewardship team and a broader group of citizens can work together to maintain that aligning vision. One important personal and collective capacity for everyone leading a change effort is the ability both to identify and to sustain commitment to truly audacious goals. By audacious goals, we mean a future-focused, important, easy-to-understand goal that's profoundly motivating emotionally and intellectually. An audacious goal engages people. It reaches out and grabs them in the gut. It's tangible, energizing, and highly focused, and it has a clear finish line. An audacious goal is an extension of who you are and what matters to you. It captures both your head and your heart. It delivers clear direction. But for all its necessity and virtue, a big, audacious goal also has risks. Whenever we express a big goal, such as we aspire to be a community in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive, we're immediately faced with how far reality is from what we say we want. We've seen that leaders of health system change efforts need to sustain that tension between what is possible and where we are now to keep themselves and others in the work for the long haul. The Audacious Goals tool is designed to help leaders like you do your own personal work to identify what would be for you a truly engaging, audacious goal. It's also designed to help you manage the tension that arises when you focus on something truly audacious. There are many tough challenges to creating a clear, audacious vision that's also broadly shared. First of all, we know that individuals can be very good at articulating a bold vision that appeals to them personally, and perhaps to many others. But to generate true buy-in and representativeness of a vision requires that people participate in creating it and feel that it contains their voices and their values. However, large groups are just not good at that kind of clarity. They tend to compromise with others, and that reduces clarity and tends to create a long list of good things we want, and that's not a vision. Large groups need some structured help to generate the images of the things that most represent a thriving future community, and they need some structure that will help keep that vision sharp even through the inevitable conflicts or compromises that occur, and to land the vision at a point of agreement that most can commit to pursue. The tool that we call establishing a shared vision provides that structured help to generate the images that most represent that thriving future community. The Establishing a Shared Vision tool is an agenda for convening a group of more than 50 citizens to work together toward a big vision for the future of the health of the region. You can see that this emphasis in Phase 3 on recruiting new champions and engaging more and more citizens in stewardship means that successful efforts will develop stewardship structures that are well established to guide ongoing alignment in Phase 3. And they'll have multiple layers of groups serving important stewardship purposes. For example, we see here a stewardship team at the center that's leading for the whole, and usually a smaller subset of core stewards or champions for the effort who serve special leadership functions within the stewardship team. There also are cross-organizational coordinating efforts that lead particular innovations. There are also residents within the region who are guiding the vision. And finally, there should be a well-established backbone organization in Phase 3 that are often called integrators or quarterbacks, who serve as the anchoring staff that enable the effectiveness of all these other groups and that serve as the glue for the effort. Through our work with stewardship groups across the country, we've now observed that leaders face a barrier when they try to move beyond aligning efforts in Phase 3 around that big vision toward whole-scale redesign and integration of the forces that support health and well-being in Phases 4 and 5. In other words, many efforts get stalled in Phase 3. What we've been seeing is that the enthusiasm of groups wanes in the absence of sustained investment and when win-wins are no longer possible, making it harder to keep their effort going and growing. We believe it's important to highlight for you just how challenging this work can get at Phase 3. The Atlanta Regional Collaborative for Health Improvement is a helpful exemplar for groups who are focusing on making this shift. We'd like to encourage you to read that case study and watch the video describing how they've approached this important work. Two more critical enablers can sustain momentum in the align phase. First is the need to invest to keep up with the scope of the effort. In the act of recruiting stewards to the leadership of the effort, call upon the key organizations in the system to make pledges to support its infrastructure. We've seen in our work with leaders and our research that shared commitment to an effort, tangible pledges of support, can both build the trust that others will collaborate and sustain the staff and resources that will be needed to bring many disparate initiatives together in alignment. There's much more information about ways of investing in and supporting an integrative organization structure in Rethink Health's financing primer for changemakers. But for now, let's turn to one last key momentum builder that sustains the progress of the align phase and moves an effort toward the redesign phase, a relentless focus on learning to help keep the key groups, individuals, and organizations in the system getting smarter and more capable of lasting change over time. You aim to create change in a dynamic environment with partners and stakeholders who view the world through their own eyes and who use their own experiences and thinking to make their own decisions. That will always be true, and it should be true. So it's not enough to gather once or even twice a year to reflect together about your change effort. The practices of emergent learning are designed to help people who have different perspectives engage with each other at the beginning of an initiative or during the work itself as often as needed in ways that are simple but that promote the chance to adjust your thinking, take up lessons from the past, and create aligned action in the future. There are 2 tools for supporting a disciplined practice of learning that you'll find especially helpful in the align phase of work, although they can be helpful during any phase of the pathway. These tools help collaborators come together to learn from experience, to help the whole community get better at achieving the outcomes that all of you care about. First is the After Action Review. The AAR is a backward-looking learning tool. It helps a group reflect on their experience around a framing question. For example, how did we do in our effort to build alignment among these groups about their priorities? It's a reflection on immediate experience, documenting all the lessons learned from a recent event. The lessons captured from an after-action review put a group in a better position to do superbly what they may have struggled to achieve before. Second is the before-action review. It's a forward-looking learning tool. It's intended to make sure that everyone who's needed in an initiative is on the same page with regard to intent. It's an alignment and a learning tool in one package. The BAR also helps a group reflect on their intentions around a framing question, such as what will it take to engage these groups in this initiative, or how can we most effectively ensure the success of this next community convening? It asks a group to declare their intended outcome, how they will recognize success, to think together using their full range of perspectives about what challenges they predict, and to draw insights from past experience about how to address those challenges. Try a BAR with your key partners in leading this change effort as you prepare for your next critical action step. You'll experience both greater alignment of purpose and clarity about what outcomes you want, and you'll be better positioned to use all the knowledge and experience in your group to bring about those outcomes for your effort. If you've identified your change effort as presently in about phase 3, the align phase of the pathway, and you'd like to learn more about how you can focus your activities to build more momentum for change, the developmental assessment can help you to understand more about what the strengths and weaknesses are of your regional effort. Rethink Health, working with many leaders like you around the U.S., has identified 11 conditions which together increase the chances over time that real transformative change will take root and lead to greater and greater impact. Each of these 11 conditions is an important part of your change effort at every stage of the pathway. The developmental assessment helps you rate your effort on each of these conditions. If you want to move beyond phase 3 of the pathway, take a look at your scores on these conditions. The more that are scoring 3 or better, phase 3 on the pathway or more, the more momentum you have going for your effort. We've covered in this presentation some of the key pitfalls and momentum builders of phase 3, the align phase of regional health transformation. In the next presentation, we'll cover the 4th phase of the pathway, the redesign phase, and we'll explore what's involved in stewarding an effort into and through the work of redesign. In order to download the tools that are described in this presentation and to learn more about moving your effort through and beyond the align phase of the pathway, please visit rethinkhealth.org/align.